You have been given a chance, one single opportunity, just for you, little one. You don't have to endure the tribulations about to be unleashed. You can escape all of that misery. All you have to do is listen to my voice. As before, it begins the same. A faint hum vibrates from the sky that tickles the back of your throat. The resonance builds to a thunderous resounding blast of one of the 7 celestial trumpets. Each time that horrible sound is heard, it has heralded a start of another 3 years of suffering, each more horrifying than the next. 4 times has the trumpet sung its song. Before the echo of the 5th trumpet fades, you will be given your chance to escape. When that familiar tickle re-emerges, an object will appear in the sky. As it nears, the intensity of the deep tone grows. You know it's only a matter of time before the deafening blast is heard once more. However, this time, what is to come will be different. The past 4 soundings of a trumpet brought with it disasters never seen in such magnitude. Yet you understood what they were. Yes, they were terrifying, but it was all within the realm of your understanding. You know what makes the earth roll and quake. You know why fiery mountains fall from the heavens. Knowledge has freed you from the archaic belief in the supernatural. No longer does such nonsense deceive you into believing the displeasure of a god will call the hurricane, or a curse will summon the cyclone, or a hex will bring down the plague upon you. It's something different that approaches from above. It's an abomination. It's wormwood. The Hebrews called him Abaddon the Banished, and the Greek knew him as Apollyon the Destroyer. Life as you knew it is now over, for he holds the keys to the bottomless pit that has imprisoned his army since even before the words, "Let there be light," were spoken. Do you remember the first time we spoke, little one? After the 2nd trumpet sounded, you were given a vision of the pools of Nakuna Sekeda. If you were able to find the location of those sacred waters, go there now. 3 pools sit at the ends of a T-shaped rock formation. As the moon peeks out from the horizon, its crimson light gives the waters the appearance of blood. The higher it rises in the sky, longer shadows are cast. Upon the rock, the likeness and resemblance of a man outstretched upon the rocks will appear before you. Stand in the center of the 3 pools. Tread carefully, for you stand before the image of the sacrament laid upon his symbol. Each pool has a name: the pierced left hand, the pierced right hand, and the pierced foot. Prepare yourself to receive the blessing of the pierced abdomen. It requires you to be anointed with the ethereal spearhead that will now run you through. There is no outward wound, but blood is now seeping internally into the empty places within you. Your body has now become the 4th pool of sacrifice. When you collapse from the pain, ensure that you fall into one of the pools of water. If you fall onto dry earth, you will have missed your only chance to enter the portal, and you will lose the anointment. As punishment, your wounds will be healed, but you will live the remainder of your days marked as was Cain, hunted by both angel and demon. If successful, you will awaken in a dark, candlelit stone building, lined with pews ending at a great altar. You stand upon the place of worship, where the crossroads meet. Behind you are 3 mirrors, very similar in orientation to the pools of water you recently stood before. Shake off the chill from your wet body and make haste, little one. Time moves differently here, and we must move quickly. Look to the altar. Do you see it? There, in the shadows, a figure is kneeling in the distance. Slowly and cautiously approach it. The creature is tall and hooded. It should be deep in prayer, whispering strange incantations. If it is not, do not come any closer. Only approach if it is in prayer. Do not interrupt. Any disruption will be considered a great offense, resulting in a painful death for you. Kneel in front of it. Bow your head. Do not make eye contact and wait. Be patient and make no mistake. It knows you're there. Once it has considered you and deemed you worthy, it will acknowledge your presence. However, if it decides you're not worthy, well, there really isn't much more that needs to be said, now is there? It will ask you,
"Why have you come before me?"
Quickly tell it, "I seek passage over the bridge." It will take its time before answering,
"You lack the knowledge to accomplish such a deed."
Be brave, little one. Once these words depart your lips, there is no turning back. The creature towers above you. "I seek the knowledge of the forbidden. I wish to know, what is the image of God?" It will slowly lift its head. Close your eyes, shut them tight. You will hear its body creaking like breaking branches of a tree. It leans close, taking in your scent from the air. Its hands hover and encircle over you. The fingers glide in the air, following the shape and curves of your body, coming ever so close but never quite touching you. A deep, quivering exhale of breath escapes the creature's mouth, and it makes contact with your skin. It caresses your face with one hand as the other rises slowly to embrace your head from the nape of the neck. Its bony fingers envelops your entire head from behind. Even with your eyes closed and its mouth unseen, you can tell it is pleased with what it holds. You can tell it is smiling. It will grab you by the wrists and lift you off the ground. The ferocity of its grip is both sensual and violent. You dangle helplessly above the ground as it brings you closer to the face, hidden in the shadows underneath its dark and worn hood. Its breath coats your face with a prickly dust that stings your face. Droplets of saliva fall from its mouth and hit the ground as a scabbard tongue emerges from underneath the hood. It slides and probes the entire surface of your face until it finds particular interest in where your eyes rest. It is here where it wants to enter. The cold, lumpy tongue will start pushing and poking, squeezing and groping the tops of each eyeball through your eyelids. You feel the shame and demoralization intensely from the molestation. Pressure builds in your head from your closed eyes as it continues to violate the fragile organs that hide beneath your thin lids. The scabs feel like hundreds of little fingers. Its fingernails quickly find where your eyelids meet and begin to scratch viciously to try and pry them open. Shut your eyes tighter. The little fingers intensify their efforts to dig into your eyes with raw and obscene desperation. One of the scabby protrusions bursts, coating your face with a hot, sticky, tar-like fluid that slightly burns. The putrid afterbirth from the abscess spill onto you as the tongue continues to throb relentlessly on the surface of your closed eyes. Suddenly, the tongue withdraws, and there is silence. Keep your eyes shut and wait. Eventually, you begin to make out a faint sound coming from the being. It is a cross between a moan and a hum. It's not quite a voice singing, as there is no melody to the sound, but like a melodic singing, there is a flow to the tones and variation in the intonation. Listen carefully, and the words will emerge for you to hear.
"It happened after the sons of Adam had multiplied in those days. The angels, the children of heaven, beheld them, and some became enamored with the image from whence he was created. They conspired amongst each other and said, 'Come, let us select for ourselves from the progeny of men.' And so we were drawn unto them by insatiable hunger and thirst. a sensation unfamiliar to our kind. We then swore all together and all bound ourselves by mutual execrations to abandon our holy station. We descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon, and devoured all which the labor of men produced. To our delight, the flesh of man cried out to us in return and embraced our new form. They loved us, and we came to love them. Never had such pleasures of skin, pleasures of sight, pleasures of the tongue, and pleasures of the mind been experienced by any living thing. Man was shown the wondrous transcendence of the grotesque and revealed the vile decadence of purity. During our time together, we taught them sorcery and incantations. We gave them knowledge of the forging of metal and healing with herbs. We instructed them in the ways of architecture and mathematics. We revealed power so great it allowed them to command the atom from within the rocks of the mountain and from the water of the sea. We freed their minds and released them from the enslavement of the Father. In turn, they worshipped us, and their love for us strengthened. They basked in our adoration. But it was not true love we bestowed. It was a deception. Our actions and deeds came with dire consequences. We had angered the Creator and desecrated His creation. Mad with rage, the Father plunged His hand into the fabric of reality and altered the delicate strands of fate and possibilities. With His divine manipulation, He altered the pattern and set into motion a new future in the predestined plan. We have been judged. We had condemned ourselves and humanity to an eternity of suffering and pain. Our bodies would be scorched and burned until the end of time in a lake of fire and brimstone. However, all was not lost, for we had discovered the forbidden secret, man. They were our true salvation. We prepared and molded them in our image, and when they were ready, we begot the nephilim.
It will lean closer and whisper into your ear ever so softly.
I shall grant thee thy request, for it is the seed to the holiest of lies, the very lie that brought forth original sin. A great harvest will come about from that seed, a seed that is the very fruit of the knowledge of the good and the evil. It is such forbidden knowledge that binds the Creator to the laws of His creation, a way to deceive the eyes of the one who is all-seeing and thwart the mind of the one who is all-knowing. But be warned, for if I bestow this wisdom upon thee, forever will it restrain thee to my will. Behold, the answer thou seek is, thou art not of the image.
Then it stops. You're alone in the darkness. Slowly open your eyes. I know you're scared, little one, but it is safe now. Get to your feet. The great altar has split open and revealed an entrance that allows you to proceed onward. The pain in your side must be getting worse by now. I can see a protrusion the size of an apple has formed on your side. You don't have much time. Enter the altar and move on. You enter a large opening with a dark ravine separating you and a structure containing stairs leading up to what appears to be a temple. From the ravine grows thick black thorns that slightly sway even though there is no wind. Their points glisten with a substance that can only be poison. Do not get too close. In the center of the ravine is a single pathway that jets up from the thickest of needles and thorns that will provide you safe passage to walk upon. The pathway ends at the far end to the foot of the stairways of the temple. At the top of the stairs there will be 4 thrones, where the ones known as the 4 living creatures reign. They are covered with eyes in front and in the back, and they look down on you with an unnerving, mischievous stare. The first living creature is that of a lion, the second is like an ox, the third will have the face of a man, and the fourth is like a great eagle. Each of the 4 living creatures will have 6 wings covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. At the foot of each creature, a body on its knees chants continuously before them.
Saudada, Saudad Hayar, Kavauda, Sarava, Parakarama, Savamaina, Vana, Daivayana, Vana Atara, Vana Atara.
Their faces look up into the sky, with their arms pulled and stretched outward by the barbed shackles embedded in their flesh. The manacles stretch and control their limbs to mimic the acts of eternal worship. Its flesh is bleached white and heavily scarred from head to toe. It wears a blood-red smock from its waist down to its feet and holds dirty curved blades in its hands. Branded on their backs is a rune that bears the resemblance of a cross with hooked ends. Consider yourself fortunate they have their backs towards you, and their multitude of faces are obscured from your view. They are the Bi'ish. Cautiously move past them. The Bi'ish were 4 men, great kings and leaders of the world. They ruled vast lands that ran red with innocent blood from every man, woman and child who had the misfortune of being born into their kingdom. The 4 kings were like grown children, spoiled and naked, fighting each other, biting and gnawing at the tits of their great mother, Earth, her face beaten and scratched from when they would feed so viciously. They knew only to gorge on her black milk that flowed from deep within her bosom. Their greed and decadence, their very existence offended all who could peer into your world. Their wicked lives were ended the day they were raptured and bound like statues within the walls of this great temple. They must now worship the 4 living creatures as they once commanded others to worship them in life. They suffer now as their kingdoms suffered. For every son and daughter who found death from fighting the wars they created, their skin is blistered and torn, and their eyes are stung with the venom from the tails of 1,000 scorpions. But be warned, if they are awakened from their trance and given the use of their limbs once again, one can be well assured they will not be pleasant. In unison, the 4 creatures will hold up a key, each with a unique emblem on its end, and speaks,
Choose, choose now, choose once, choose quickly.
The first creature that looks like a lion will offer you its key and say,
Acquiesce,
the ox will offer you its key and say,
Leviathan.
the third creature with a face like a man offers its key and says,
Clithridiates.
Lastly, the creature that is like an eagle will offer you the final key and say,
Citarisma.
As the last key is presented, you hear brittle cracking, like autumn leaves from the moment of dead skin from behind you, followed by the loud clank of chains falling to the ground. Make your choice. Make it quickly. The Bi'ish are beginning to stir. Once they see you, they will catch you, and they will kill you. Make your choice. You will know which one to choose, I promise. Take the key and run. Run faster. Run faster. They are coming. Their howls are high-pitched gurgles and hisses. The screeches build as they close the distance between you and them. The slices of their blades come closer and closer. The blood pouring out of your mouth and nose cannot slow you down. Run faster! Run faster! Do not stop until you reach the church of worship. Head straight for the dark glass you saw when you first awoke in the church. Do not slow down. Run head first into it. Crash into the mirror. Do not look back. Do not look back. Whatever you do, do not look back. You will awaken shortly. The pools of water are now dried up earth. Cracked and barren, the moon should be at its peak height in the sky, covering the lands in its red glow. In the distance of the plain, you should see a piercing shimmer of light. It's only temporary. As the moon loses its red shade, the beacon too begins to diminish in darkness. I am so sorry you're in so much pain, dearest little one. It pains me to ask any more of you. Your body has so little left to give. It is so weak and fragile. But I must ask one last thing of you. One final plea I must beg of you. You must reach that beacon of light in the distance before the last of the red moon shines down upon it, or you will be trapped. I am here for you. Push aside all the pain and despair. Listen to my voice and use everything you have left and get to that light. Now. Abaddon is here. Even from miles away, his arrival knocks you off your feet. Get up, little one. There isn't much time. Abaddon is near, and his thoughts are of nothing but you. You see the brilliant beam of light shoot up in the sky. The source of its powerful beacon comes from an archway standing on an empty plain. Within the archway is a massive and majestic door standing in the emptiness. With a key in hand, you must get that door open before the red moon shines down upon it. No more, and any hope of saving you is lost forever. Ignore the wheezing sound you make when you breathe. Pull up that door. The blood from your mouth is everywhere, making it hard for you to get a good grip on the door handle. Pull harder. You only need to open it enough for you to squeeze through. The light is almost gone. Pull, pull, pull. You did it. Get in and shut that door as fast as you can and lock it. The light is gone. It is done. If you place your ear to the door, you may hear something that sounds like buzzing or fluttering, a sound that could only be made by the flapping of a million wings. There will be scraping, and there will be beating on the other side of the great door. Then only screams. Behind you is a long dark tunnel with a light at the end. Walk into the light and claim your reward, my little one. Epilogue. I walked into the bright light. Slowly, my eyes adjusted to the brightness, but I could already feel a warm breeze on my face and hear a trickling from a nearby stream. Everything slowly comes into focus. The most beautiful valley spanned out in front of me. It was made of hills of green, sprinkled with every color imaginable, where the most beautiful flowers peppered the landscape. I walked towards the clearing and saw a crystal blue pond. I dipped my cupped hands into the water and drank. It soothed my chapped lips and parched throat. It was amazingly sweet, and there was an odd sensation as I swallowed the water. It was like a shock from a tiny bit of electricity, but without any pain, only satisfaction. I then caught the scent of something new and intoxicating. On the far side of the pond was a gathering of trees. I instantly knew that among these there was one that is the source of that unceasing smell. I knew there was no other like it. Its leaf, its flower, and its bark would never wither, and its red fruit would be so beautiful and delicious. As I approached the border of the foliage, that's when I saw them, a man and a woman. I froze. The couple was walking hand in hand. I think they're naked. I made my way closer, making sure to stay hidden behind the bush. I don't know why I was hiding from view. Why should I be afraid of a couple of naked people? Yep, they were definitely naked. I looked around and realized that my tree was at the center of the groove that held this paradise. But next to my tree was another tree. It was just as majestic and impressive, but there was something ominous about it, something powerful. I looked carefully at these two unique and special trees that grew in this garden, and now realized what this place was and where I'm at. I'm startled when I feel something vibrate in my pocket. It was the key I chose. As I removed the large key from my pocket and opened my palm, I noticed the markings on its emblem in more detail. When it was offered to me by the winged creature, I simply thought it was marked with the infinity symbol. Upon closer look, I now realized it was a serpent devouring its own tail in the shape of the infinity symbol. My mind was unlocked. It was all so clear now. I knew my purpose. I knew why I was chosen. I knew why I was created. It was always God's will to destroy His creation. Once destroyed, He could fulfill His promise to bind His enemies and cast them into the lake of fire, where they would suffer for all eternity. The trumpets were a countdown to His planned end. Those branded the enemy had spent their immortality trying to find a way to prevent it from happening. But how do you outsmart an omniscient and omnipresent being? You use the very laws of existence against him. For with the creation of the universe, laws had to be created. He had no choice but to subject himself to those laws for the universe to exist. The fallen ones realized the only way to prevent the end was to break the predestined, inevitable chain of events leading to the end. They must have figured out how to connect 2 points of existence, creating a bridge for me to enter. It causes everything to stop and reset back to the very beginning, instead of continuing along the predestined path. It never ends. It never reaches Judgment Day. Existence was a loop. We're destined to keep repeating it over and over and over again to escape damnation. It was infinity, like the serpent devouring its tail. The serpent was thought to be Lucifer, God's adversary. But Lucifer was not a thing or an entity with thoughts or consciousness. He was the infinity of time, the only thing capable of denying God's divine will. It was the one simple thing that is protecting us from the wrath of an angry God. I felt its familiar presence immediately. I don't turn around, but even if I did, I knew it would not harm me. It stood behind me for a while, quietly admiring its work. It gently placed a large and cold object in my hands before the fallen angels spoke the words that would be my final instructions. I looked down at the key, mesmerized by the shape of the serpent. It was so old and worn, the jewel that made up the serpent's eye, in contrast to the bright red piece of fruit I held in my other hand. I now understood. I had one more thing to do. I wondered, how many times have I done this? How many times have I crossed the bridge and stood at this very spot? How many? Man was created in the image of God, but I am not of the image. I am the serpent. I am Nephilim. The breath of a faint whisper, now sweet and warm, was spoken into my ear. Just 5 simple words. Make them eat, little one.